In Greek mythology, Narcissus loved no one until he saw his own reflection in the water. Mesmerized, he had not a care in the world for anything else, so lacking food and sleep, he slowly died by the image he so desperately wanted but could never have. Greetings everyone, Ramses here, and today we will be talking about covert narcissists. Before we can discuss what they are, we first need to break it down. According to dictionary.com, covert can mean several different things when used as either an adjective or a noun. We only care about the adjective portion. Covert essentially means when something is private and kept out of sight. According to dictionary.com, a narcissist is a person who is overly self-involved, and often vain and selfish.
Somebody makes a criticism or provides feedback to the narcissist, and that narcissist attacks that person. So what are the thoughts with this particular type of blame shifting? Again, just looking at vulnerable narcissism.
Vulnerable narcissism is the same as covert narcissism.
The first thought, I'm so hurt by that criticism that I can't even address this issue, but hurting you will bring me some relief. Next thought, the idea of criticism itself is offensive to me. Criticism is for people who are not perfect. The last thought here, I only value the feedback of high-status people, and you don't fall into that category.
Today, we know narcissism as a pattern of self-centered, entitled, arrogant behavior, a lack of empathy and excessive desire for admiration. Covert narcissism is simply a subtype. While people with narcissistic traits are outwardly bold and grandiose, those with covert narcissistic traits tend to hide their need for attention. They focus on their achievements and have a smug, I'll show you, attitude. It is not exactly known what causes a person to have narcissistic traits, but a 2015 study by the National Institute of Health found that people with these traits often had parents who overvalued achievements and overemphasized status and admiration. It is believed that growing up in such an environment links achievements to self-worth and teaches children that they are superior to their peers.
A lot of lying, a lot of pathological lying, misrepresentation of self is very common for your covert narcissist, also your overt as well. And a lot of delinquent tendencies, acting out, destruction, certainly emotional destruction, very little regret for their behavior because it's your fault they behave that way. There's no sense of that responsibility. And so they're not going to be like, you know what, I really overreacted, it's my fault, or if you've experienced a loss, they don't care.
There are many signs of covert narcissism, but for the sake of brevity, we'll explore just a few. Sign number 1, people with covert narcissism have a secret sense of superiority. They pretend to be modest but actually believe that they are better than others. They avoid situations that may challenge the pretense of superiority. Sign number 2, people with covert narcissism are hypersensitive to any type of criticism. Even a passing comment can be interpreted negatively by the covert narcissist, making them defensive and angry. They often lash out disproportionately, acting vindictively or in a passive-aggressive way.
They don't want to receive feedback from you. No matter how diplomatically you may give it, they just don't want to know if you are not just upset, but if you just think differently, it's like, no, I don't need to do that. And in fact, if you try to talk with them about how, well, we were approaching it this way, but I noticed that you had these thoughts that were differently, could we try to blend? Their attitude is almost like, how dare you? I mean, you got your facts wrong. You can't talk to me that way. And so they don't really want to receive any kind of input.
Sign number 3, covert narcissists will use any necessary tactic to preserve a perfect image, even if it means deceiving, lying, manipulating, deliberately forgetting, belittling, etc. Sign number 4, covert narcissists blame people and victimize themselves to grab people's attention and sympathy. For instance, it's always someone's fault that they are unsuccessful in their careers.
Set off into something and they start to suffer. They start a wheel of see how I suffer. And this wheel of see how I suffer is that they suffer more than anyone else. And that's where that narcissism comes in, and that's why it's kind of hard to identify, is because they are often that I suffer more than anyone else. My suffering is unique. My suffering makes me special in a way because I suffer more than anyone else ever has.
Sign number 5, Covert narcissists always try to deflect attention from their own faults and will never take responsibility for their wrongdoings. Instead, they find a way to shift blame or come up with flimsy excuses for every situation. With that in mind, don't expect a sincere apology from a covert narcissist. Covert narcissists disguise their self-centered traits beneath a facade of humility and vulnerability. Unlike overt narcissists, they manipulate subtly, play the victim, and seek admiration covertly. Displaying a grandiose sense of self-importance, entitlement, and a lack of empathy, they engage in emotionally manipulative relationships while concealing their true intentions.
You look upon your relationship with that person, you think, I'm really trying hard to be reasonable here, and yet no matter how hard I try, that other individual continues to be impossible. They won't change. They keep coming at me with all sorts of insults or criticism or non-cooperation or disrespect. What do I have to do to make them quit? There's a truth that a lot of people have a hard time coming to terms with, and that is sometimes you just have to accept the fact that that's who they are, and then you make your adjustments accordingly.